In today's episode of the Giraldo Show, we're going to be looking at what appears to be former Ambassador Marie Yovanovitch contradicting herself on her testimony, and we're going to be looking at what today's impeachment hearings are going to be all about. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to the Giraldo Show. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Giraldo Show. I am your host, Sebastian Giraldo. Once again, impeachment hearings are going to be starting up today, going up to Thursday. 3 straight days of impeachment hearings, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you what's going to happen on each of those days with the witnesses. Wednesday is going to be really interesting. I'm going to be watching the impeachment hearings, and then right after, Democratic debate starts from 9 p.m. Eastern to 11 p.m. Eastern, so it's going to be a long day for me. But anyway, let's go ahead and get right into the stories of the day, which really aren't breaking news stories. It's just going to be what happened on Marie Yovanovitch's day, her main point, which she seemed to contradict herself, and what's going to be happening on the impeachment wire is what the Daily Wire is calling it. That's the article I'm going to be using, according to Josh Hammer. So let's go ahead and start with that, with the impeachment wire. So this is according to Josh Hammer, very good reporter at the Daily Wire. So compared with 2 weeks ago, this past week was a much busier week in the impeachment saga. The big news is that House Democrats finally commenced last Wednesday the formal public fronting phase of their impeachment inquiry. As Ash Show of the Daily Wire reported last Wednesday, the initial public testimonies centered around Trump's July 25th phone call with Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky regarding an alleged quid pro quo. The two witnesses called on Wednesday were U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine William Taylor and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs George Kent. Amazingly, despite the fact that the now infamous July 25th phone call serves as the main underlying basis for Democrats' continued impeachment efforts, neither of the witnesses were even on the call, and the same was said for Marie Yovanovitch. So either way, the media twisted the words saying that, this is a huge loss for Donald Trump. He is going down in these impeachment hearings. When really, if you actually listen to them, nothing new came out. None of these people were on the call. Nothing new came out. And actually, the Republicans were really good at questioning the witnesses. So back on Friday, former U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Marie Yovanovitch testified, and I'll get into what her contradictions were in a later story, and then also the whole story with President Trump with the live tweeting against Yovanovitch. I won't cover that today, but just know that it happened that while the impeachment hearing was happening, he was tweeting out against Yovanovitch. So over the weekend, furthermore, Democrats released the impeachment probe transcript of National Security Council official Tim Morrison. Republicans had previously criticized the delay in the transcript's release. So this is what Josh Hammer says. Tactically, House Republicans seem to be sticking with the no quid pro quo line. As I have pinned on the previous election wire newsletters and impeachment wire updates, I believe this is a tactical error on the part of the GOP. Instead, Republicans and President Trump's impeachment defense team ought to focus more on substantively advancing the position that the underlying conduct on the phone call, no matter how one defines it, does not amount to an abuse or violation of some public trust. And I think that's a good point to understand. Running on the no quid pro quo, the Democrats have gone past that. They're moving on to bribery at this point. But moving to where it says no abuse or violation of public trust, I think that's a much easier thing to defend because on the transcript, you don't see a lot of abuse of powers. He's just asking for the favor. He's saying if it's possible. He's not saying he's not doing what Joe Biden did, saying if you don't fire this prosecutor, I won't give you the $1 billion. What he's saying is that if it's possible, investigate the corruption that's happening in the Ukraine. And even though President Zelensky of Ukraine did not directly put out a official investigation, the aid was released anyway, 2 days later to be in fact, on September 11th. So national polling remains very narrowly in favor of impeachment. As of November 17th, 2019, 538 indicates that Americans now support impeachment by a 21% margin. This margin had stayed relatively consistent over the past few weeks, though the longer month trend is in the direction of a narrowing margin in favor of impeachment. If you look at the current polling numbers for the impeachment of their support, 47.7% support the impeachment, 45.6% don't support, so it's pretty close between wanting to impeach and no impeachment whatsoever. So this week, what's going to happen this week, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday? I'll go ahead and tell you who the witnesses are going to be. So on Tuesday, we're going to have the testimonies of Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman and former U.S. Ambassador to NATO Kurt Volker. On Wednesday, it's going to feature the testimony of U.S. Ambassador to European Union Gordon Sondland. And on Thursday, it's going to include the testimony of former National Security Council official Fiona Hill. So it's going to be interesting to see because apparently this is the week. This is the week where Donald Trump goes down. We have people that were involved in the call. They were listening in on the call. This is the week where he finally goes down. We're actually going to see if that's going to happen tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Let's see what's going to happen. It's going to be really interesting. Josh Hammer then continues on by saying, moving forward, it will be interesting to see how aggressively House Democrats try to accelerate the time frame for subpoenaing witnesses and eliciting testimony. Beltway sources all seem confident that the Democrats will seek to end their probe well before Christmas, possibly even before Thanksgiving. It seems fairly obvious that the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has the votes at this point to impeach. The only remaining question is whether impeachment is truly dead on arrival in Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's governed upper chamber, or if the Senate teases out the trial process. Sources tell Josh Hammer that McConnell will likely try to delay that decision by means of devoting a lot of precious Senate floor time, perhaps even more than usual, to judicial and administrative nominees. So yes, even though I don't think the Senate is going to go through, they're going to remove the president, I understand why Mitch McConnell wants to kind of delay this a little bit more. Today's episode is going to be pretty short. There's not going to be too much to go on because I only have 2 stories of the day and they're kind of short. But the next story is going to be pretty juicy. For those who don't know, Marie Yovanovitch, who weren't really listening in on the impeachment trials, she appeared to contradict herself on Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and on Burisma. So former United States Ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, appeared to contradict herself on Friday, during Democrats' impeachment inquiry hearing, stating that the Obama administration never raised the issue of Hunter Biden and Ukrainian gas company Burisma, but then later stating that the Obama administration prepped her on that exact issue. So here's the transcript of an exchange between Yovanovitch and Representative Elise Stefanik. Stefanik says, the first time that you personally became aware of Burisma was actually when you were being prepared by the Obama State Department for your Senate confirmation hearings. And this was in the form of practice questions and answers. This was your deposition, and you testified that in this particular Q&A session with the Obama State Department, it wasn't just generally about Burisma and corruption, it was specifically about Hunter Biden and Burisma. Is that correct? Yovanovitch answers, yes it is. Interesting. So it was actually more focused, what Obama administration was trying to do, focusing more in on Hunter Biden and Burisma, not just generally about corruption and Burisma, which is what Yovanovitch apparently was keen on fighting. Interesting. Stefanik then continues saying, and the exact quote from your testimony is, the way the question was phrased in the model Q&A was, what can you tell us about Hunter Biden being named to the board of Burisma? So for the millions of Americans watching, President Obama's own State Department was so concerned about potential conflicts of interest from Hunter Biden's role at Burisma that they raised it themselves while prepping this wonderful ambassador nominee before her confirmation, and yet our Democratic colleagues and the chairman of this committee cry foul when we dare ask that same question that the Obama State Department was so concerned about. Again, we have right here the Obama administration themselves asking specifically about Hunter Biden and about Burisma, yet when Republicans want to ask that question to Democrats, it's apparently taboo. You can't ask that because it's just too much. You're just looking to put dirt on Joe Biden. When the Obama administration, when Joe Biden was vice president, did the exact same thing to Marie Yovanovitch. Stefanik has every right to be a little bit annoyed at this question, especially since her and Schiff have a bit of a conflict. For those who watched the impeachment, for those who didn't, Schiff completely denied, refuted anything that Stefanik says wasn't allowed. Didn't really give a real reason why she wasn't allowed. It was an outrage, in my opinion, because I was watching on it. So that happened with Burisma and Hunter Biden. Apparently, she was good with that, right? No, apparently, earlier in the hearing, Yovanovitch gave what appeared to be contradictory remarks. Yovanovitch said, and although I have met former Vice President Biden several times over the course of our many years in government service, neither he nor the previous administration ever raised the issue of either Burisma or Hunter Biden with me. Huh. Very interesting. So, which one is Yovanovitch? Did they raise the issue or did they not? Did she just lie under oath or did she just not remember? I guess we'll never know. Democrats won't care about that anyway because even though that was a clear contradiction from Yovanovitch's part, Obviously, you could see right there, she said no one ever touched the issue of Burisma and Hunter Biden with her, yet she's then clarified and confirmed that actually, yes, Burisma and Hunter Biden were very specifically talked about with the Obama administration when she was a part of it. So later, Representative John Radcliffe, a Republican from Texas, pressed Yovanovitch on this issue. Radcliffe asked, I'd like to ask you about your earlier testimony and your Senate confirmation, and Congresswoman Stefanik had asked you how the Obama-Biden State Department had prepared you to answer questions about Burisma and Hunter Biden specifically. You recall that? Yovanovitch answered by saying yes. Radcliffe then said, and she mentioned that you had been asked or prepared for a question about Hunter Biden's role on the board of Burisma. But I don't think that you gave us the answer or answers that the Obama-Biden State Department prepared you to give in response to that question. Do you remember what those answers were? Yovanovitch, yeah, it was something along the lines of, I would refer you to the Vice President's office on that. Radcliffe then said, so did they, in the course of that brief, the amount of money that Hunter Biden was being paid by Burisma? Yovanovitch answered by saying, no, this wasn't part of a briefing. I mean, I had sort of a big old books with questions that might come up. Radcliffe, in preparation for your confirmation, and they thought that Hunter Biden's role at Burisma might be significant enough that it would come up during your confirmation. Is that correct? Yovanovitch, apparently so. I mean, there were hundreds of questions. Radcliffe, well, hundreds of questions, but there were hundreds of companies. How many companies other than Burisma did the Obama-Biden State Department prepare you to give answers for? And if so, if there are others, which ones? Yovanovitch answers, I just don't recall. Radcliffe, you don't recall that there were any other companies, is that correct? Yovanovitch, I'm quite sure there were probably some other companies, but I mean, this was a while ago and I don't recall. Radcliffe, but you specifically recall Burisma. Yovanovitch, yes. Radcliffe, all right, out of thousands of companies in the Ukraine, the only one that you recall the Obama-Biden State Department preparing you to answer questions about was the one where the Vice President's son was on the board. Is that fair? Yovanovitch, yes. I know it might seem like Radcliffe is repeating himself a lot, but it's just for clarification. He needs to make sure that he's got Yovanovitch where he wants her. Obviously, there could have been other companies. I can understand that. But for her to just recall Burisma, just so happen to call Burisma, that doesn't seem like it's not a coincidence. She was probably very specifically prepared for Burisma just because Hunter Biden was on the board, son of Vice President Joe Biden. And Radcliffe and Stefanik made sure to narrow in on that point. And there are videos that show you the exact quotes, these transcripts. They are taken from the videos themselves, but you can watch the videos in the articles that I will link. So it's very interesting. Yovanovitch's testimony, again, nothing new that came out, and she even started to contradict herself. So is this what the Democrats call one of their star witnesses? I guess so. I guess we'll have to find out this week if really anything new comes out and if impeachment is really going to be a serious issue that Americans should concern themselves with. But that's going to be it for today's episode. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow. My name is Sebastian Giraldo, and you are listening to The Giraldo Show.